Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where as promised, we are ready to commence this burn here, or almost ready. And this will of course be our transfer burn over to Eve, and that'll be absolutely great. So let's go ahead and warp on forward here. Oh, I overshot slightly, but I don't think it really matters that much. This orbit is so long of a period that this shouldn't, like, missing by 2 seconds shouldn't really make that big of a difference. It should be okay. In terms of, like, the percentage on the timing, it's such a minuscule amount, right? So it should be completely fine. We're going to tick on forward here. We should even be able to get away with a physics warp here and get that burn done 4 times faster. Fantastic. So that burn will be finished shortly. And we're going to come off of the physics warp about now. We'll just lock over to the maneuver node. There we go. Okay. Just fine-tuning the burn a little bit here. That's probably close enough. How's that looking? That is indeed an encounter with Eve, and it's about the expected encounter. In fact, this timing is pretty good looking at the Parallax versus Gilly here. So if we were to add a maneuver, I'm pretty certain we would not see an encounter with Gilly, just because of the inclination. So all we're going to do is get ourselves a minimal orbit over Eve. Something along the lines of this guy. Fantastic. So we'll hop on over to the maneuver node. And let's commence our warp. Now, we're definitely going to have to do a few maneuvers here, since we've got 2 contracts that we're working on. We need to reach a designated polar orbit. And, of course, we need to transmit and recover science data from the surface of the moon. That would be incredibly easy to do. For the time being, we're going to hold off on that. We'll get that done soon. Let's see here. Eve, and we're not doing this one just yet. Yeah, so this is our secondary here. Our current primary mission is this one, and then our secondary mission is this one. Fantastic. So here we are at Eve, and we're going to commence our braking burn shortly. 40 seconds, 20, 10, and commencing our burn in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Fantastic. So all we're really looking to do is enter an orbit around Eve. It doesn't really matter what orbit. We're just looking for an orbit here. Fantastic. So we'll get captured by Eve's gravity. Obviously, we are a little bit elliptical here. This is not going to be a circular orbit. That's fine. It doesn't need to be. Okay, we'll call that good enough. Not quite minimal, but definitely good enough. So we've got a descending node over here. That looks good. We're going to want to burn normal here. And we're going to need to toss in a little bit of retrograde to keep ourselves from being flung out of the system. Cool. That's a little bit overshot there. If we were to bring this in, hypothetically, and we'll have to make a couple of corrections to the actual inclination. But what would this end up looking like? Oh, that's actually really close. That's actually really, really close. Okay. What if we just changed our timing a little bit? That doesn't really help. So we're probably going to have to do a bit of a radial burn here, which is fine. Cool. What does that orbit look like? It's good enough. Okay, so obviously, we've already got the one long-range communication machine here. We're going to put a second one in on this orbit, but we're going to have to hit this orbit first. So this is looking fine. We'll just get these 2 contracts completed. And this burn is going to be in about 3 days, a 99 meter per second burn. Cool. We have so much delta V in this thing. It's absurd. This is a crazy amount of delta V that we have in this, for the record. Absolutely bonkers. It's way too much delta V. We're going to tick on forward here, though. And we will position for this burn starting now. Excellent. 3, 2, 1, and burn is almost complete. Just getting those last little bits in, that's probably good enough. Yes, indeed it is. Okay, so all we're going to look to do here is get a nice circularization. That was way too much. Let's get that flipped back on around. There we go. So we'll get a nice circularization there, and we'll target this orbit, and then we'll go for this orbit, although that one has to be over a particular area, which is fine. We can attempt the same technique that we did before, but for the time being, we will prepare for this burn. Cool. So let's head on over to Gilly here. No problem, we'll be there in about 20 days. And off we go. Beautiful. So where is Gilly, actually? We don't see it just yet. But it should be over this way somewhere. It's very hard to see. It's very small. But we definitely don't see it at this point. We will commence our burn here in a little bit. This is, of course, our braking burn. Still do not see Gilly. But it usually sneaks up on me, so it's fine. 4 more days. I think I may have just seen it transit there. Yep, there it is. Excellent. Hello, Gilly. Gotcha. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to commence this burn shortly. 40 seconds. 20 seconds. 10. And 3, 2, 1, mark. Excellent. It's only a 15-second burn. Not much of one, to be honest. Okay. Little bit to go here. All I'm interested in is really an orbit. I mean, we overshot that by a decent amount. We could head around to Prograde and fix it, but I'm not too concerned about that, to be honest. So at this point, we need to find the actual ascending node here, which will be basically right here. So we'll add that maneuver, and we will bring ourselves around, 56 degrees. And we'll get into this correct inclination. We're going to need some retrograde tossed in there, obviously. And we've overshot slightly. So bringing that on around, that should be approximately the correct inclination. Then we're going to need to toss in a little bit of that, along with a little prograde, because I want to encapsulate this orbit. So we'll bring it in to be approximately like that. Cool. That'll do. 11.3 meters per second, and that burn will be in about 1 hour. A 0.9 second burn. To be honest, this engine is now too powerful. We're going to limit this down to maybe like 10%. 9-second burn? That's much better. Cool. So we will position for that burn here in about 1 minute. Let's just get reoriented. There we go. And warping on forward. 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, 3 seconds left. We'll call that good enough. Yeah, inclination-wise, that should do. So at this point, sometime around here, we're going to want to add in a retrograde burn. That is way too much of a retrograde burn. And let's just change up our timing here a little bit. Just to line up the periapsis and apoapsis here. It's very sensitive at this point. Just trying to nudge it into position here. There we go. Maybe just the tiniest bit. Nope. I don't like it. Get out of here. No. I want it to be 0, not this floating point approximation of 0. Helps if numlock is on. There we go. Perfect. We can try tossing in a little bit. This is going to be close enough. This is going to be close enough. So let's prepare for that burn. And that burn is going to be in about 2 hours here, so we'll warp on forward. Excellent. And we know that this is a 4-hour rotational period. So that'll be fine. And we will commence this burn in about a minute, just preparing for it here. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and commencing burn in 2, 1, 0. That should be close enough. Okay, so at this periapsis, we could probably tune that in a little bit, actually. Sure, that'll do. So at this periapsis, we are going to bring in our apoapsis and position it approximately here. It should be close enough to get the contract done. That's 0.6 meters per second. We're going to thrust limit this all the way down to 0.5%. There we go. And we will prepare for this burn. And off we go. We are going the correct direction, so that's good. Excellent. And we can see we're at 0 degrees on the inclination. That's great. And this will definitely count for our contract. But this is not the final position of this particular communication satellite. 40 seconds on this burn. 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, and mark. Cool. And then we'll just go until this orbit disappears. That means we're close enough. Okay, so this is close enough, but I went a little further. Cool, that'll do. Now we maintain stability and contract complete. Beautiful. But we're not done here. So we're going to flip around to Prograde, and we're going to push our apoapsis out a bit, because this is our final target orbit. But we need to be over this site, right? And we're actually kind of there right now, but it's not going to be exactly what we want. So we're going to push this apoapsis out. And of course, we'll have to change our inclination, which we will do basically at this ascending node. Basically at the apoapsis. A little bit after the apoapsis, actually. Okay. So right about here should do. So at the ascending node, then, we are going to add a maneuver. And this is, of course, a 90-degree inclination change. So we bring that all around. We will need some retrograde tossed in there. Overshot that slightly. Okay. Let's get our inclination lined up by getting our camera in position here. Something about like this-ish should do. It's slightly off, but I think it's close enough. So we'll prepare for that burn. And we're going to have to be in the correct position here, but that'll be doable. So we're going to head on over. Obviously, this rotates under us. Not exactly what we're going for. Okay. So we've got about 1 minute here. And we know that this is going to be, what, like 2 hours and close to 3 hours. Okay. Interesting. But what we need is to get this to line up correctly. We'll have to think about that in a moment here, but let's get this burn done here in 10 seconds and get our inclination changed. Cool. This is a 4-minute burn. We should probably turn up our thrust limiter here. There we go. That's a little bit better. And we'll warp on forward. 12-second burn now. So we'll get this burn commenced in 30 seconds, 20, 10, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and mark. There we go. This is much better on the burn. Cool. And we'll call that good. So from here, when we get here, it's going to be 3 hours and 16 minutes in the future. That's fine. What we need is for this point to be here when we reach the apoapsis. There will be a point when that happens, but let's go ahead and warp up over here. Oh, we need to invert our directionality. We're going the wrong way. That's the thing that we can do. No real problem there. So we can do that here at the rather at the periapsis. I'm going to go ahead and warp on over to here, and we'll just retrograde. I'll go into stability assist here. We're going to retrograde, flip our orbit, and push it right on back out. So this descending node is going to flip over to being 0 degrees here in a moment. Cool. There we go. And now we'll push this back out to about here. There we go. We could maybe even do some radial if we wanted to change this a little bit. And that might not be a terrible idea. Okay, radial in, not radial out. Got it. So we'll switch on over to that. And we'll just get these lined up a little bit better. We can see we're 1 degree off, apparently, on our inclination. Which we can definitely adjust. Okay, that'll do for now. So our descending node is going to be basically exactly here. So let's just make a quick adjustment there. Yes, that should be correct. Okay, a quick adjustment here would look something along the lines of that. Excellent. So that's a very minor burn. And we'll just get in there. And we'll warp on over. 25 minutes. Let's go. This is not a very speedy warp, but it's only 25 minutes that we need to go, so it's fine. And we're not over our correct point. We'll get there. So, here in about a minute, we're going to commence this burn. It's a very, very short burn. 5, 4, 3. It doesn't really matter when we do this at this point, honestly. So we'll just do something kind of like that. There we go. 0 degrees. Perfect. So now we can see that we are... If we use this to bisect, sometime around... Yeah, we're not going to be over this when we get to the apoapsis, I don't think. Let's go ahead and warp over. But we're going to have to take another pass or two. Because we're still working on catching up here. Yeah, so this needs to be exactly 3 hours away, I think. Or very close to it. So we're going to bring this down until this T- time is 3 hours away, instead of 3 hours 15. So we'll bring this down here, because we know this is 4 hours. This is almost... not exactly. That's probably close enough. Let's see how that's going to look. We're still catching up. I think I might have gone the wrong way. Yeah, pretty sure we went the wrong way there. Is this still going to count? Actually, it might. So let's flip over to Prograde here. This might still be good enough. Yes, this is good enough right now. So we should push out our periapsis here. Like that. Boom. Contract complete. Fantastic. So there's our stationary orbit of Gilly. Of course, because we're in a stationary orbit, this is never really going to be able to communicate with our colony core. It's slightly awkward. I'm not going to lie about that. So we're going to push out our apoapsis here. And break our stationary orbit. Okay. So now we're going to pull back to retrograde, and we're just going to give this a minimal orbit here. Or rather, I guess we could call this a maximal orbit. That was a little more than I wanted. Okay. Let's try that again. I'm going to target 100 kilometers. Cool. So then we'll warp around over to here and push our periapsis up. And now we should be able to communicate periodically anyway. So that'll be fine. Now, if we were clever, we would put ourselves in a stationary orbit over the colony core, but we're not that clever. So we're just going to push out our periapsis here. Once again, targeting that sweet, sweet 100 kilometer figure. That'll do. Okay. Cool. So now we'll have periodic communications anyway. Let's hop back to the Space Center and figure out what our next move is. Our next move, I think, is going to be getting our colony contract for Gilly done, even though it's a kind of fake colony. I think that's going to be the goal there. Hypothetically, could we use the same colony core for Gilly and Eve? So we need science data from the surface of Eve and plant a flag on Eve. We have no requirements for the colony on Eve. So theoretically, yes. Make ground contact, splash down into the oceans. Wait, we need to splash down and make ground contact? Huh. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay. Well, we know we're going to do some of this anyway, so let's go ahead and grab that contract. What else do we need? Surface deployed seismic sensor science from the surface of Eve. Sure. That is something... Eve is tectonically active, is it not? I'm pretty sure it is. So we'll grab that one. And what else do we need? Volcanic rock from Eve. Yeah, we're not returning from Eve to Kerbal. That's definitely not a thing we're going to do. So that's fine. We're not going to do any of these contracts. But I think that we could definitely put together something that would support this contract and landing on Eve. But we need something to splash down into the ocean of Eve. And we're also going to need to figure out where the lands and the oceans of Eve are. That can always be complicated. Yeah, so that's going to be very interesting for sure. But I think that we can send our facility to Gilly and then use that to land on Eve. It's kind of insane, but I think that's something that we can do. So, we'd want to, like, refuel it from Gilly with the ISRU, probably. And this needs to have 5,000 units of ore in it. Okay. Noted. So we're going to have to build this to support both, right? And it has to be launched in a single launch. It must be fully assembled when launched. So, that's going to be interesting. We're going to call this the Gilly Eve Outpost. Outpose, apparently. Perfect. There we go. And we're going to have this be based around a cupola module because we know that we need one of those. So, let's go ahead and put that in. We need to support at least 16 Kerbals. So, step 1 is support 16 Kerbals. We can support how many in the module here? 1. So we need 15 more. Okay, so cargo-wise, we know that we're going to need some sort of a cargo container. We'll bring this guy. Cool. Inside of that, we're going to put our standard science equipment. So all of these things will go in here. Do we need an RTG? No. We do need power, so let's see here. We need our experiment control station. We've got a weather analyzer. We've got an ionographer, which actually doesn't work inside of an atmosphere, I believe. Correct? Requires an atmosphere X, requires no atmosphere V. I believe that it requires an atmosphere, or requires no atmosphere. We'll bring it anyway. So we've got the seismometer. We've got the GUA-BD monitor, correct? Actually, that's, yeah, we do. No, that's the weather analyzer there. So the GUA-BD monitor goes in there. That's all good. So this requires 6 power in total. And our photovoltaic panels here should produce at least 2 power if they're deployed by an engineer. Any engineer of at least level 1. Okay, so we'll go ahead and bring 6 just in case, and then we'll leave the rest of this empty for the time being. And we're going to need some, like, hitchhiker storage containers, probably. This has a capacity of 16 Kerbals right there. As opposed to hitchhiker storage containers, which only have a crew capacity of 4. Landing this is going to be interesting. I think there's no doubt about that. But that is something that we can tackle in another episode. This is a start here, but we're going to have to do a lot of design work on this, so that'll be okay. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including Casserole, ALS Gamer, Kentuin, James, Shadowwolf, Mlohan80, Kentogan, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Unisil, Kadra, Rogue Corvid, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.